May 27th, 1911. Her fresh paint gleaming under the warm morning sunshine. The newest and largest ocean liner in the world, White Star's Olympic, sat moored at the fitting out wharf at Harland & Wolff's Belfast shipyard. For months, she had been a hive of activity as hundreds of carpenters, fitters, electricians, and other workmen labored away finishing and furnishing her inside and out. Now all aboard was quiet and still as she awaited her debut. As home to the largest shipbuilder in the world, Belfast and its people took great pride in the liners built by Harland & Wolff. An Olympic was their crowning achievement. The local papers had followed her progress, publishing updates as they developed, such as the laying of her keel in 1908, the completion of her framing and plating, her launch the previous autumn, and fitting out over the winter. Now the papers were filled with dozens of announcements for her public inspection, as well as where one could buy tickets to tour the ship, with the proceeds being donated to local hospitals, the Royal Victoria Hospital, Mater Infermorum Hospital, Children's Hospital on Queen Street, and the Ulcer Hospital for Children and Women. Olympic was dressed for the occasion, with dozens upon dozens of colorful flags fluttering high above her pristine decks as the first guests, a group of reporters and pressmen, began making their way up the gangway. They were given a full tour of the ship by Mr. Saxon J. Payne, Lord Peary's secretary, as well as other company officials. They got to view all her public spaces and select staterooms in all three classes. Awed by the new liner, their praises would find their way into the papers in the coming days. A special service of trams had been arranged for the event, and they were packed full of eager sightseers. Others made their way to the wharf in automobiles or even on foot. The tour would officially start at 2 p.m., but those who wanted to get aboard first began arriving early, and before long a queue of people stretching hundreds of feet in length formed by Olympic's side. The tour would be conducted in two parts. The first, from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m., would cost 5 shillings, while those boarding for the 4 to 7 p.m. block only paid 2 shillings to see the ship. Company officials were positioned all around Olympic to help guide guests, and also to ensure they didn't wander off. Certain areas were roped off as well, as seen in some of the photographs taken by Harland & Wolff's official photographer, Robert Welch. All in all, thousands took the opportunity to see the liner, even Lord and Lady Perry making an appearance aboard later in the afternoon. The public inspection proved a great success, with the local hospitals benefiting greatly from the ticket revenue. The next day, during the morning high tide, Olympic was turned to face the sea in the preparation for her trials. The task was a tricky one, due to the tight turning area of the harbor, but the channel had been extensively dredged in anticipation, and everything went according to plan. Large crowds gathered again to watch as she swung around, getting excellent views of her from all angles. Early the next morning, May 29th, under the command of White Star's distinguished commander, Captain E.J. Smith, Olympic cast off from the wharf and began her sea trials. As Olympic set off into Belfast Lough, she was followed by 2 additional and much smaller vessels, the Nomadic and Traffic. Brand new themselves, the 2 were built to attend to and service the Olympic and her sisters when calling at the French port of Cherbourg. As such, they would be in attendance during the trials as well. As the small fleet sailed towards the open ocean, they were watched by thousands who had gathered at the various points along the Irish coast in the towns of Holywood, Carrickfergus, and Bangor. Several schools in these areas had been closed for the day, allowing the students the opportunity of witnessing this historic event in shipbuilding. The day couldn't have been more perfect, and as Olympic left Belfast behind, she vanished into the early summer haze. The trials went splendidly. She had been bunkered with 3,000 tons of the best quality Welsh coal to ensure she was running at peak quality. Her engines and her turning capabilities were all tested, her compasses adjusted, and her Marconi was put to use for the first time, sending updates of her performance to the White Star headquarters in Liverpool. And while she did run at full speed ahead, exceeding her intended speed of 21 knots, it was not the custom of the White Star Line to perform these kinds of speed tests, and they did not run her on the measured mile. At sunset, she returned to Belfast and anchored off Carrickfergus until the next morning, when the second day of sea trials was carried out. Afterwards, Olympic returned to her anchorage and remained there until the launch of her sister ship, Titanic, later in the week. The sight of Olympic, with her towering funnels and balanced proportions, was such a sight to behold that a local ferry was chartered for special cruises, affording people the chance to see her both during the day as well as at night when she was fully illuminated from stem to stern. On May 31st, 1911, Titanic's launch date finally arrived. Coinciding with the joint birthdays of Lord and Lady Perry, and shortly after noon, the empty hull joined her completed sister in the waters of Belfast as she floated for the first time. Some 100,000 people had gathered to witness the launch. Among them, White Star President J. Bruce Ismay and his family, along with J.P. Morgan, the American tycoon who had bought White Star under the control of the International Mercantile Marine Company. There had been a bit of trouble earlier that morning when Olympic's firemen, brought over from England for the sea trials, went on strike and left the ship. Fortunately, White Star quickly found new local men to replace them, and they were brought over aboard the tender Traffic. Following Titanic's launch, a group of pressmen and VIP guests proceeded to the Grand Central Hotel for a delicious luncheon, before boarding Nomadic and setting off to join Olympic out in the lock. After receiving her first passengers, Olympic weighed anchor and departed her birthplace, sailing away in the gentle glow of the setting sun on course for Liverpool.